The Bible, specifically the Old Testament, is a written record of humanity's relationship with Yahweh, the God of the Israelites. Specifically, the book Genesis also details how the universe is created in 6 days, and that the seventh day is when humans were created. What if there is another written record of the beginning of our universe, earth and civilizations, so that we can compare it with the stories in the Bible? This written record purportedly did exist in Japan, and it's known as the Takenouchi Documents. The Takenouchi Documents are publicly released by a person known as Takenouchi Kayamaro in 1910. He claimed to have inherited a set of manuscripts which is passed down generations after generations through his family line. The original source of these manuscripts was supposed to be very old and written in divine characters. In the 5th century, his ancestor, Takenouchi no Matori, translated them into Japanese and Chinese. These manuscripts were held at the Koso-Kotejingu shrine on Mount Omijin in Toyama Prefecture and was passed down to the firstborn of the family when they became chief priest of the shrine. Based on these documents, the planet initially consisted of a mud sea that took 22 billion years to develop. During this period, the sun and moon was created, the sky separated from the earth, and the first gods and goddesses were born. Earth gradually gained shape over the course of 6 generations. Doesn't this remind you of the story in the Genesis? But from then onwards, the history as written in both accounts diverged significantly. In the Takenouchi manuscripts, there were altogether 4 epochs over a period of 300 billion years known as Tenjin era, where there was a total of 7 generations of heavenly gods, the Joko/Kodo era consisting of 25 generations, the Fukiezu dynasty consisting of 73 generations, and the Kanyamato dynasty, which includes 125 generations starting in 660 BC and continuing to the present day. In the Tenjin era lasting 7 generations, Earth was mainly governed by gods. During the 7th generation, a descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu, Sumeru-Mikoto, was born. He descended to Earth at Mount Kurai, Gifu Prefecture in Japan, and would become the first world emperor and began the Joko/Kodo era. This was also the period when civilization as we know it began, with the invention of new technologies like writing, agriculture, and weather control. Sumeru-Mikoto had children, both sons and daughters. From the genes of the 15 princes and 1 princess, gene manipulation was conducted during the 2nd Joko era, and the 5 races of people, the white, red, blue, yellow, and black people, were created. Observant people would notice the blue people, which we can no longer see if they indeed once existed. But in Hinduism, one of the deities, Lord Vishnu, and his avatar Lord Krishna are shown as blue-skinned. Together with the races they created, the descendants of Sumeru-Mikoto dispersed over the globe to found new nations over a period of 8 billion years. Under this system of unified global government, Sumeru-Mikoto designated a king to rule over each of the 16 regions, with Japan at the center. The 16-petal chrysanthemum that serves as the Sumeru-Mikoto's crest represents the world and its 16 geographical zones. Members of the Japanese imperial family still wear this crest, now known as the chrysanthemum flower seal, as the imperial seal of Japan. To give credence to this theory, the 16-petal chrysanthemum was seen outside of Japan, on Ishtar Gate of Babylon and the Alhambra Palace in Spain, for example. The Hida Mountains in Japan served as the home of this global government, and Koso-Kotejingu Shrine, where the Takenouchi manuscripts were kept, was the most revered of all the shrines. According to legend, Hihiro Kane, an extraterrestrial non-rusting metal, was used to construct the shrine. All 5 racial groups of humanity visited the shrine to celebrate an annual celebration. To keep tab of what is happening around the world, Sumeru-Mikoto traveled on a regular basis. He flew aboard a craft known as an Amino Yukafion, or floating ships. The locations where these vessels landed were given the names Hain, winds. In Japan, the term Hain appears in the names of numerous locations. The Takenouchi papers claim that these were historic landing areas. Haneda Airport is still the name of one of Tokyo's airports. During this period, the dominant activity was agriculture. Though Sumeru-Mikoto owned all the land, the people oversaw its management. There were no taxes and no exploitation of their labor. Sumera Mikoto wanted to make his people happy, and they in turn loved and adored him in return. He also had the authority to add or remove people based on their capacity for rule. This reminds us of the narratives found in ancient Sumerian writings, where the first kings were gods who then appointed subsequent kings. Pyramids are mentioned as places where Sumera Mikoto would use to communicate with the higher gods. In fact, based on the documents, the first pyramids were built in Japan. The fact that we do not see any pyramids in Japan now is that many of them are now covered over with forests and so look like mountains instead of pyramids. Unfortunately, over many generations, humans gradually turned away from Sumera Mikoto. Tamiera and Maui, two continents in the Pacific Ocean, submerged as a result of catastrophic tremors, and Japan was destroyed by a 200-meter tsunami at the very end of the Joko/Kodo era. These catastrophes, together with the weakening influence of the Sumera Mikoto, led to the beginning of Fukiezu dynasty, where the reign of the Sumera Mikoto is no longer worldwide but only restricted to within Japan. It's also believed that early humans lived for far longer than we can envision, but that as more and more of these catastrophes occur, human lifespan declined to what it is now. If you have enjoyed the content so far, do remember to like and subscribe. The Takenouchi Documents have many other interesting tidbits of information. I have briefly mentioned in the video, I visited Jesus Christ tomb, in Japan, about Jesus Christ's story in the Takenouchi Documents, though he was named Yasasaf in the documents. Moses was supposed to have also lived in Japan, died at the age of 583 years, and buried in Ishikawa Prefecture, near the base of Mount Hodatsu. He was supposed to have brought a set of the 10 Commandments stones to the Sumera Mikoto in Japan. Unlike the account in the Old Testament where there is only one set of the 10 Commandments stones, the documents state that there are in fact 3 sets. Even Shakyamuni Buddha was supposed to be buried in Japan, with his bones separated into 2 different burial grounds, empty. Banju in Aomori Prefecture and Kawanakashima in Nagano Prefecture. There were descriptions of the Kusanagi, a fabled sword, that is claimed to have been handed to the Japanese emperor by Amaterasu, the sun goddess. This sword eventually was passed to the Sumera Mikoto, and to every subsequent Japanese emperor from then on. The 3 imperial regalia, consisting of the Yata mirror enshrined at the Ise shrine, and a necklace used as a calendar preserved at the imperial palace, besides the Kusanagi sword enshrined at the Atsuta shrine, are the 3 most sacred treasures of Japan and provide legitimacy of the Japanese imperial family line to the gods. As the original manuscripts were purportedly seized by government authorities and later lost during World War II, it is currently impossible to determine the accuracy of the Takenouchi writings. Mainstream scholars have termed the Takenouchi documents as 20th-century forgeries. There were also accusations that the Takenouchi documents were propaganda pieces created by the Japanese military to support the Japanese emperor's rule over the world. What do you as the viewer think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, you will probably enjoy this next one on Japan.